What's up, everybody? How's it going? We are going to do another episode review for you for the Rings of Power. Whew, season 2, episode 4 dropped this week, and I haven't heard any feedback that you guys want me to continue to do this or stop doing this. But I got to say, the most views that I've gotten on any video so far or any podcast so far has been the episode 2, season 3 review. So I figured if I'm getting some views on that, maybe you guys want to still hear it. So this one's going to be a lot shorter than the last one because this is only one episode. So last live stream was 2 episodes. So let me bring up the video for you here, and we'll do the same thing we always do. So, like the title of this live stream might suggest, this could be this could be the last one. This one's pretty stupid. Watched this one. I was kind of bored with it. I actually normally I don't fast forward as I'm watching it live. Normally I'll just watch it through. Um, but this one I was hitting that forward button a little bit, that 10-second button a little bit, um, just to get through it, you know. Big announcement though tomorrow. Tomorrow we got a big show tomorrow. Um, for those of you who know me and have listened to me in the past, my buddy Mike and Seb, that I used to do a podcast with way back when, we are going to get together and do a live stream at 9 o'clock Eastern tomorrow, Monday, the 9th of September. Yep. And we're gonna do like our old format. So just think of like 3 middle-aged guys kind of ranting about life and talking about something they love, right? Think about, I don't know if you guys know the show Top Gear, or if you guys know the newer version of that show, which is called Grand Tour on Amazon with Richard Hammond and Jeremy Clarkson, and I forget the other guy's name. Someone out there is saying it, but picture that that type of show, like 3 or 4 best friends that go on like some adventure together, right? But our adventure is a podcast. Instead of talking about cars, we might talk about a movie or a TV show or a comic book or music, and that's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. Um, we're gonna we're gonna do the old format. We're gonna have something called Wasting Time. Wasting Time is a segment that I always was my favorite, which was basically we just kind of talk to the audience about what we did that week and what happened to us. And a lot of those stories end up being really, really entertaining and really funny. So you don't want to miss that. Those of you who know, you know. Those of you who don't know, give it a listen. And I promise you that you will enjoy it. And then we're going to talk about some music. Okay. All of us are very big Oasis fans of the band Oasis, and they are making a comeback. And we're going to just talk about our love for their music and, give you our favorite songs and our favorite concerts, and just tell you about stuff like that. So that's tomorrow, 9 o'clock, YouTube live, 9 p.m. Eastern time. So be there for that, and join the chat and talk to us a little bit. If you like Oasis, tell us how much you like them. If you hate them, tell us how much you hate them. Or if you don't know anything about them, maybe you'll learn something. You definitely know 1 or 2 songs from them. You definitely know Wonderwall. You definitely know Champagne Supernova. But we're here to talk about the desecration of Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, season 2, episode 4. I got notes. Look at the notes I got. I was writing down notes. I got some notes here, but here we go. We can give it a shot. Okay. So starting off in Lindon here, this is where Elrond and Galadriel are, and Elrond's kind of being a jerk to Galadriel. This is going to bite him in the butt eventually, I'm assuming. All right, he's acting kind of cocky, acting kind of arrogant. He was put in charge. She was taken off charge of a small band of soldiers that were going to go um, to Eregion and kind of scope out what's going on there with Sauron. And she was taken off, and he was put in as the leader of this little band of elves. And he's kind of being a jerk about it. It will bite him in the ass eventually, right? Because she's going to be the one that comes out on top, and she's going to be the one that was proven right in this whole thing. But they just have a little conversation here before they get going. Um, he basically tells her, you have to call me commander, and you're my lieutenant or whatever the hell they say. Um, Nothing of much importance there. Uh, let's see. Then they start out on their trip. Now, this band of elves that go out on this journey, very diverse group of elves, and I don't mind that they're diverse. As far as like racial ethnicities and stuff, but I think an issue with this show, and I think an issue with TV in general these days, is that there's like the diversity is in everything. And when you have it's interesting because like diversity is supposed to be differences, right? Altogether with differences. And when you make everything different but in the same way, then it all becomes the same again, which is boring to me. So, like when you watch a show or a movie, you can tell a lot about the environment and the world that you're watching by the type of people that live in different parts of the world, right? So, like in deserts or in hot areas, there's going to be a certain type of people. In cold tundra type areas or, you know, colder climate areas, you're going to see a different type of people. This was the way it was for thousands and thousands of years until humans were able to create transportation devices that allowed people to, venture from one place to another, right? It started with ships and then trains and then airplanes, and it got easier and easier and easier. And we have become more and more diverse over the years. But like when you go to China, there's a really good chance you're going to see lots of Chinese people, right? When you go to Asia, you see Asian people. When you go to, Africa, you see African people. When you go to India, you see a lot of Indian people. And it gives you insight into the world that you're in, into the culture that you're in, right? The culture of Indian people is such because those are the people that live in the area. So when you see elves with the same demographics as dwarves, who have the same demographics as the Harfoots, who have the same demographics as anyone else, the Numenorians, it nothing kind of stands out as interesting, right? They're all kind of homogenized to a boring global people that you find it hard to connect with any of them because they all look the same everywhere you go. Every scene you look at, there's a certain number of white, black, Asian, Indian people in the scene. So it to me it's boring, and it's not just in this show. I was just watching a show with my wife. I forget what it's called. I don't even know what it's called, but it's a mafia show on Netflix that takes place in England. I think it's called the London Murders or the England Murders, something like that. And it's the same thing. It's, there's a mafia guy gets killed and they go around the table and you got the mafia people around the table. And, there's the 3 black mafia people and the woman mafia person and the Indian mafia guy and the white mafia guy and the Asian mafia guy, and it's like they represented everybody at this table, which is fine, but it's boring, right? It's boring, and none of them look like mafia people, not for nothing. Like, they all kinda just look like crooked businessmen. None of them really looked mafia people. Maybe that would have helped if any of them looked kinda tough in any way, but none of them did. But anyway, I digress. So this band of very diverse elves is supposed to go to Eregion, right? To scope out what's going on with Sauron and Celebrimbor. And they get to this bridge, and you can see this bridge is pretty messed up, right? It's charred, right? It's all black, and obviously something destroyed this bridge. And this is the bridge that goes directly to Eregion. And Elrond touches it and says, "What could have done this? Must have been lightning." Lightning? I think more than lightning destroyed a stone structure that has been probably in this land for thousands of years. And, it was just silly. Like like they're so dumb. Like they made the elves dumb, and elves aren't supposed to be dumb. And that's my biggest gripe about this show is that they get the characters wrong. They just get the characters wrong. Here's your very diverse group of elves. Oh man. Look at these elves. Look how proud the one on the left is. He is just he's just a proud man. And the other guy's looking at the map and they're like, "Well, what are we gonna do now? We gotta go around, we gotta get through to Eregion, but the bridge is out. So what are we gonna do?" Right? So they have this conversation about where they're gonna go. Do they go one way and then they add 2 weeks onto their trip? Or do they go the other way and go through the dark woods? Right? And Galadriel's like, "Oh, you don't want to go through the woods. Bad things are in the woods." And Elrond's like, "Well, I'm not going to do whatever you say because you got that ring and I'm mad about the ring." Right? So whatever she says, if she would have said, "Let's add, 2 weeks on to the trip," he would have said, "Let's go to the woods." And if she said, "Let's go to the woods," he's like, let's go on the add, 2 weeks onto the trip." So whatever she said, well, he was going to do the opposite because he's acting like an absolute child, right? So they listen to Elrond. They decide to go through the woods, and in the woods is where we find the Barrow-wights. Now, a lot of people have issues with the Barrow-wights, but we'll get to that when we get to that scene. So then we get to Gandalf, not Gandalf, with Poppy and Sesame Seed, and actually, with just Gandalf. Gandalf lost Poppy and Sesame Seed in the last episode when he created a windstorm to get away from the people in the masks. Right, the people in the masks, who I don't know who they are hunting Gandalf. They want to find Gandalf, and he loses them somewhere. And he's in the desert, it looks like, or somewhere desert like. And he this is where we meet Tom Bombadil. Lots of people have problems. Here's Tom. Here's good old Tom. Now I got to say, Tom is one of these very like mysterious characters in Lord of the Rings, and Tolkien actually hasn't quite said what Tom is or who he is or how he works, but he's kind of like this. He has control, or not control, but he looks over nature. That's kind of his thing. That's his realm. Um, all things natural, trees, forests, water, things like that. He kind of holds realm over them, and he's a very very powerful being. We don't exactly know how powerful, but he's like pretty much aloof to everything that's kind of going on around him. He really only concerns himself with his realm. He doesn't care about wizards. He doesn't care about Sauron. He doesn't care about any of this stuff going on. He's kind of just chill and wants to just do his thing in his realm, which is fine. And a lot of people have issues with him being portrayed in this um, show and the way he's being portrayed in this show. So they have this, you know, interesting conversation, and Gandalf tries to rip a branch off this tree, and the tree eats him, and Tom Bombadil's like, "Well, you shouldn't have tried to rip a branch off. You should have just asked him if you could have it." Because what Gandalf's doing, he's trying to find his staff. Remember in the last episode, his whole thing is about this journey to find his staff, and so he believes that maybe this tree could kind of give him a branch that he can make a staff out of because he has this map, and this map has stars on it, and he's trying to find those stars, and the stars led him here, and the map gets blown in the wind, and the map lands on this branch, so he thinks that's the branch that should make his staff out of. And maybe it is, maybe we don't know. Maybe later on he asked the tree to give him the branch, but as of yet still hasn't. So he gets swallowed up by the tree, and Tom gets him out. They don't show you Tom getting him out, but he wakes up and Tom gets him out. Then we find the Harfoots, who are again in the same area as Gandalf, but just separated from him. And that's when they meet. Oh, let's see if I wrote his name down. Merrimack is his name. Merrimack. Okay. And at first he's called Nobody. He calls himself Nobody. And wait till you see Nobody. Let's see if I can. There he is. There's Nobody. He's a Harfoot. I don't know anymore. I just don't know anymore. Like, what is this? I don't know what this is. He's supposed to be like, I think they're called stores instead of Harfoots. They're like related to Harfoots, but they're stores. I want to say it's stores. I could be wrong. Kind of kind of falling in and out of consciousness with this show. But he he's a big dummy. And I think he's like the town idiot, to be honest with you. And he brings them back to his village and to meet the leader of the village, who, guess what? A very unlikable female. Crazy. And again, very, very diverse group of individuals that are going to eventually be these are the ancestors of the hobbits, right? Now, I'm not sure if you remember Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, but I don't remember seeing this much diversity in the hobbits in Hobbiton in the Shire. I'm just saying, right? Just saying. If you watch those movies, you watch Bilbo's birthday party at the beginning, tell me how many hobbits look like their descendants that are on the screen today in this show, right? The descendants of the hobbits don't exactly resemble the hobbits of the future, right? And the leader of the hobbits, let's see if we can get here. She is. There's the leader of the hobbits. Again, an insufferable woman who doesn't want to listen to anybody. She makes judgments very easily without having all the facts. And basically, look at her, hands on her hips, just sassing. Sad. And look at them all in the background. None of the current day hobbits look like these individuals. So if you're thinking like how could that be, right? Like scientifically, what could cause current day hobbits, well, when I say current day, Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings current day, to look so vastly different from their ancestors? Oh, who knows? Something must have happened, right? Environments must have changed, natural selection took place. Who knows? No idea. But she is very sassy, and they're just looking for Gandalf. They just say, "Have you seen our friend?" And she's like, "Friend? What's he look like?" And they're like, "Well, he's a giant," because they're little, right? And like, he's a giant. And they're like, "Oh, an elf?" And they're like, "No, no, he's like a grand elf. Get it? Grand elf, Gandalf." Trying to say something there? If they are trying to say something, that's a stretch. That's a bit of a stretch. Um, so they're like, "No, no, he's a wizard." Now, how do they know he's a wizard? Do they even know what wizards are? There have not been wizards yet. There are no wizards yet. The wizards haven't been there at all. So how do they know the word for that if there aren't any, right? Like we know that Gandalf is a wizard because he's been there for thousands of years with other wizards like Saruman and the other one, Radagast, right? And there were more. There were like 5 of them total, I think. Yeah, I gotta take a swig of this whiskey. George Dickel whiskey, very good. Don't make fun of the name. So she's like, "Wizard? There's only one wizard here, and he's an evil dark wizard, throwing you in jail." That's what she does. She doesn't even give them a chance. Like she just tosses them in jail. All right. That's where that goes. So Sassy Pants throws Poppy and Sesame into the clink. And then we go back to this dude again. I don't know who he's the leader of. People say there's rumors going around that people say this is going to be Saruman. Saruman the White. That's a rumor. I don't know if it's true or not. We'll see. I have no idea. I'm not privy to these rumors, but this guy's pissed off that they haven't caught Gandalf yet. Right? These masked people were supposed to go get Gandalf and they're not following through. And they're like, "Why didn't you get Gandalf?" And he's like, "Well, he created a sandstorm and we lost him. What are we gonna do?" Right? So then after that, we get more Tom Bombadil talking in prose. We get Gandalf taking a bath. This is when we hear a woman's voice, and this is going to be Tom's. That's supposed to be Tom's wife. Forget her name, but Tom's got a wife. Supposedly she's a hot wife. She's gorgeous, but um, they end up having a conversation about the staff and about magic, and apparently Tom knows like what's to be. He's given you the impression that he knows, like he was expecting Gandalf, and that he knows the outcome of Gandalf's visit, and that it seems like he's supposed to teach Gandalf magic. Now, this this is not the case, right? In the lore, this is a big problem with the lore here. Gandalf is a certain type of being. It's called a Maiar, and these are magical beings that were made by Iluvatar, and they're sent down. 5 of them are sent down to Middle Earth to kind of protect Middle Earth from the darkness, from Morgoth and Sauron. And I'm pretty sure they know and have the skills they need to have before getting to Middle Earth. Right? They're given bodies. They're given the bodies of these elderly people so that they can kind of go unseen in Middle Earth and not be known as these magical beings. They can kind of, go incognito, so to speak. But Tom Bombadil definitely doesn't teach Gandalf how to do magic. But in here, like he's Yoda, right? In this show, he's Yoda, just teaching Luke how to be a Jedi, kind of. So that's that. And he knows that he tells Gandalf, like he foresees, somehow he has this knowledge that Gandalf is going to fight the Dark Wizard. Right now, is he talking about Sauron himself, or is he talking about the guy who might be Saruman in the cult leader with the guys with the masks? Right? Who knows? It's got to be one of those two, right? It's either got to be the guy who kind of looks like Saruman, or it's got to be Sauron. I'm assuming it's going to be it's going to be the cult leader. But that's the conversation they have. And I mean, I didn't necessarily hate the scenes with this guy. He seems to be kind of like Tom Bombadil is supposed to be a weird character. He's kind of hard to understand. He's very ambiguous, and I think he pulled that off here. But I think he was kind of boring about it. He kind of delivered all his lines with the same you know, energy, right? There was no fluctuation. It was just this one monotone, and that's a thing now. Like everything has to be the same. Like Galadriel, every line she speaks is in the same volume, in the same energy, and there's no dynamic to her at all in this show. Um, that's kind of why I like the dwarf guy the best. He's pretty much the best actor in this whole show. But they talk about that, and then where do we go? I think we go into the woods next. Yeah. So elves are in the woods, and this is where they see the Barrow Whites. And again, messing with the lore big time here. The Barrow Whites are these like souls of people that they were made by the Witch King of Angmar. And if you saw the movies, that's the big bad ring wraith, right? There are these 9 ring wraiths, the 9 men who are under the control of Sauron that ride the big winged beasts that are constantly searching for the ring for Sauron. Their leader is the Witch King. He's the one who stabs Frodo on Weathertop. And he's the one that kind of, I don't want to say created, but he's the reason these Barrow Whites are are present in these woods. And they kind of look like gypsies. They kind of look like gypsy zombies, and it's so dark. Like you can't tell anything. But the elf sense something, and then all of a sudden these gypsy zombies appear. Let's see if we can find one here for you. Almost. Let's see, is this one? It's so dark you can't even tell what's going on with these things. Let's see if we can play some. One of them gets shot with an arrow. Let's see, is this one? Here's one. That's a pretty cool shot. I mean, they look cool. I gotta say, they do look cool. They kind of look like the ghosts that Aragorn had to summon up. And like if you shoot them with arrows, the arrows go right through them, kind of thing. And one of the elves in the party gets gets it from one of these zombies, and you think he's gonna die, but we'll see later on that's maybe not the case. So they're fighting these things in a pretty cool little battle scene. It's pretty neat. I gotta say this scene was kind of cool. However, none of them know what these are, right? And it's pretty well known that the only one who knows what these are Galadriel, because Elrond says, you know, what are these things? And she says Barrow Whites. And it's like, well, why didn't you tell us that before when we had to make our decision? You just said, oh, there's bad stuff there, and that was it. You could have said there were Barrow Whites there. But anyway, um, but they're pretty unaware of what's going on. However, these two that are on the screen right now, they're moving a rock away from like a cave. And inside this cave or tomb, I guess it might be a tomb, are going to be the Barrow White swords, the swords of the Barrow Whites. And the only way to kill a Barrow White is to stab them with their own blades. How'd they know this and how'd they know where to look for them? They're being attacked. They've never seen these things before, except for Galadriel, maybe. And I don't even know if she's seen them before. She just knows about them. And what struck me was like, how the hell did they know where to go and what killed them? They just learned about them. Galadriel just told them those are Barrow Whites, and that was all the information they got. They never got the information. These swords have to be used to kill them. Find the swords. Everyone look around for the swords. None of that. Um, it's just Elrond knew where to go and knew what was inside and knew what would kill them. And I just thought it was very convenient for that to happen. But it happens. So here comes the hand, and there's Elrond saving Galadriel from the Barrow White with the swords of the Barrow Whites. Then we cut to Galadriel. I don't know if we got to it yet, but Galadriel, the one of the elves got stabbed or got, you know, injured pretty bad by one of the Barrow Whites. And the ring she's wearing, the ring of power that Elrond doesn't like, completely heals this guy. She lays her hand on him, and the darkness of the Barrow White, whatever was inside him killing him, just gets sucked right out of the guy, and he's absolutely fine. So it's like, I don't think I don't I'm pretty sure that's not what the ring does. I'm almost 100%. Not only are they messing with the timeline of the rings, when the rings are made, in the order in which they're made, and who they're given to, right? Because these 3 rings are supposed to be made last, but they're made first in this show. And I don't think they have complete healing powers like that. Like, she just laid like, this guy was gonna die. He was dead, and she just laid her hand on him, and all the badness got sucked out of him, and call it a day. Why would anyone die then? Like, anyone in Galadriel's presence, why would she ever let any of them die with this ring? Just seems like a and why wouldn't they make 1,000,000,000 of these rings so that everyone has one so they can heal themselves? I guess they don't have enough mithril. Who knows? But so then where are we now? We're with Isildur now? I think we're with Isildur. Yeah. Okay, we're with Isildur, and this is where we see the Ents, the tree Ents. They're looking for Theo. Remember from the last episode, Theo got kidnapped or taken by something. And I think in the last episode, I said it was a cave troll, and I thought it was, but I was wrong. It wasn't a cave troll. It was the Ents, the tree Ents. And if you've seen Lord of the Rings, you know the Ents, they're the talking trees. I don't think they got the Ents wrong here. I think they did the Ents pretty good. They made the faces a little wonky. I don't know why the faces were twisted and kind of misshapen. In the originals, like the eyes and the nose and the mouths were all kind of anatomically correct for a tree, but this, like, they're all twisted. Like, the mouth is on the side of the face and the eyes are all wonky. But it was a choice, and it was fine. That really didn't bother me too much. But they're looking for Theo. Um, and the whole time they're taking orders from the stranger girl, Estrid, right? And why? Why you have an elf, get the elf's name, Arondir, right? He's the elf that does all the Zelda tricks. He's pretty cool, I guess, as far as elves go. And Isildur, who was a one of the, I don't want to say knights, but one of the soldiers of Numenor. Like, these two have seen wars. These two have seen battles. They've probably navigated themselves through forests before. Why are they taking orders from Estrid? But they do. Okay. Um, Arondir is going to start, like, interrogating Estrid. He doesn't trust her. And this is when they get a kind of, I don't want to say attacked by the Ents, but kind of. Let's see here. Okay, there's Estrid. There's Isildur, obviously falling for her. Here is when Arondir kind of gives her lip and gives her attitude and says, he doesn't trust her at all. And he finds that she has the sign of Adar on her neck, and he does not trust her at all. So now they go looking for Theo. There's Theo. We find Theo in like a nest or a cage of a tree with all of the other goons that we thought took him, right? That was the whole thing. We thought the goons took him, but the goons got captured too. And oh yeah, this scene. They just robbed the Princess Bride in this scene. So in this scene, Isildur falls into some, like, sand trap, like quicksand type of thing. And she's begging to get out of the chains, and then Isildur, let's see if I don't want to get copyright struck here. Okay, Isildur is going to get swallowed up by the quicksand. And if you remember the quicksand scene in The Princess Bride, okay, Man in Black has to dive in and save the girl. Well, Arondir and Isildur both get swallowed up by the quicksand because they're both stupid men. And then Estrid has to save them. And she goes and gets a twig, sticks it in there, and you got this giant worm thing that comes out and kind of just vomits them up. for no reason. Like, why didn't he? Oh, he goes to eat her. Oh, and then yeah, okay. Arondir stabs the worm from the inside right before it eats Estrid, and then it vomits them, or they cut themselves out of the stomach. I didn't see a reason for this. Again, Isildur is not going to die. I said this in the last episode. There's no stress whenever Isildur is put into a situation where he might be killed, because he can't die. He's got to live. A lot of these people have to live. So there's no stakes for a lot of these people. I guess they can kill Estrid or Arondir, but I doubt they're going to do that. So they get out of that situation. Um, Here are Sesame and Poppy in jail, and there's cave wall writings. I don't know why they're writing on caves. They're not cavemen. Like, they're pretty civilized people. Why are they writing? I don't know. This seems so out of character for hobbits or hobbit-like creatures. But they're talking about the wizards now and the dark wizards and this and that. And this is when the bad guys show up to the camp, the guys with the masks, and they start threatening the leader of the stores or stewards. And she covers up for Poppy and Sesame Seed, and lies to the masked men that she hasn't seen any Harfoots, she hasn't seen any little folk, and she kind of lets the girls go away and escape with Merrimack, who also calls himself Nobody. After that, we are back with our elves, who are now, they're continuing to travel. These two aren't getting along still. Galadriel and Elrond, they're not getting along still. Oh, and this is where we meet the tree ants. Here's where we get the ants. I'm a little out of order here, but that's all right. The tree ant basically bitch slaps Estrid, which should have killed her. Like, she's just a peasant girl, and she gets 1000% walloped by this tree ant. See if we can see it here in the episode. Yeah, she's threatening to kill Isildur, and here comes the tree ant, just boom. Like, she gets wrecked and thrown into a rock. And Isildur, I don't know why Isildur cares about this girl at all in the least. She just had a knife to his neck. She's threatening to kill him so she can get away. And the tree ant is why she should be, by all accounts, she should be dead. But of course she isn't, because there's no stakes for anybody. And then the tree ants are really pissed off. And they're pissed off because people have been cutting down the trees, right? That's always why the tree ants are pissed off. The tree ants only get pissed off when the forests get cut down, right? That's why they got mad at Sauron. A wizard should know better, right? Because Sauron was trying to build his army, and he was burning the trees for, in his furnaces for steam to make his weapons and all that stuff. And when Merry and Pippin showed him that Saruman cut down all the trees, the tree ants got real pissed. And then that's when they marched to war, right? So here, they're yelling at the elves, or they're yelling at Arondir about the trees getting cut down, and he touches the tree. It's a lady tree, by the way. It's an Entwife, which they were in the books. The Entwifes were in the books. So he touches the Entwife and tells the Entwife, "We will never cut down trees in this realm. I promise that we will never cut down trees in this realm." Here, look at the face on the Ent. See how it's like twisted, like the nose is off to the side. Still pretty neat though. Still pretty neat. They did a lot of good CGI. I gotta say that's the one thing. The show looks good. All right, the show does look good as far as costumes and settings and things like that. But so the tree ant's like, "All right, we'll let you go." And then they let the tree ants that were holding Theo let let Theo go. And one of the people in the group that was with Theo, one of the thugs, is actually Estrid's fiance. So now Isildur's all sad because he thought he was going to get some from Estrid, and now he's not. Doesn't look like he's going to get some. You never know, though. There are still 4 more episodes, so she might break up with him and try to hook up with Isildur. You never know. You never know. Let's see. Where do we go after that? All right. So then we get the orcs, and we get girl boss Galadriel. So the merry team of diverse elves here, the band of diverse elves, is they stumble upon an orc trail. Now, one thing that really bothers me about this is that again they got the elves wrong. And what part of the elves did they get wrong here? Almost all of them, almost all the parts. So the orcs are traveling through the woods that they're in, like kind of behind them. Sorry, so they're looking out over this horizon or this cliff edge or whatever, and behind them is like a army of orcs marching through the woods, going to kill people. Right? That's what you assume. They're off to kill people. Remember, the orcs we're supposed to feel bad for that have babies at home with their wives that don't want to go to war are marching off to war very happily, wanting to kill people. But we're supposed to feel bad for them. But they're marching behind, and like one of the elves like makes a noise, and the orcs hear them, and like they're almost drawn to the elves because they made the noise. Now, if anybody knows anything about this series and this lore, is that the elves sneak up on you. You don't sneak up on elves, right? Like that's how it works in this world. They, when they enter Lorien, when the Fellowship enters Lorien in the movies, and Gimli's looking around and he's telling the hobbits, be careful. They're going to see Galadriel. She's a witch, and she'll put a spell on you, and this and that. And then all of a sudden there are 5 bows and arrows pointing directly at them, and it's like, and the elves come and they're like, we could hear your dwarf breathing, from a mile away, or whatever the heck they say something like that. Here, and also, how many times did we see Legolas use his like elvish sight? Right, Aragorn says, Legolas, what do your elven eyes see? He can see for miles and miles and miles with his vision, because elves have this amazing sight that they can use and see. How did they not see these orcs? Right, you have 5 of them, and they're all very diverse. Right, doesn't that make them better? There should be better elves than just a regular bunch of elves. So how did they not hear them? Right, these are orcs stomping around with their armor, and they're big and clunky. They're not stealthy. They're big beasts. They're like these. They're orcs, right? You should smell them. You should hear them. Like as for an elf, they should have known that these things were much closer than they were, right? So that irked me a lot, because they got the elves wrong. So here they are. Here are the orcs, and the orcs like heard like it's like the orcs have better hearing than the elves in this show. This is so backwards. This whole show is backwards. Everything is backwards. The timelines are backwards. The introduction of characters are backwards. Everything's backwards. The abilities of these species are backwards. And the orcs are the only group that isn't diverse. They all look the same. Work on that, Amazon. Do better, Senator. Okay, so the elves. So this is weird too. So at this point, I'm pretty sure the orcs know something's there, and they're going to go try and kill it. So Galadriel says, I'll go and fight the orcs by myself. The rest of you go ahead. And Elrond, take the ring, so that they can't, just in case I get captured. I got a lot of questions here, right? Number one, why can't all of you fight the orcs? You're elves. You are completely superior, obviously superior to all these orcs. And it's not like an army of, it's not like hundreds of orcs. it's a band of orcs, probably maybe let's say 30 orcs, right? Let's say maybe 40 orcs. Legolas would kill these things like they were nothing, right? He'd be counting with Gimli 1, 2, 17, 18, 20, right? Like 5, 6 elves. I forget how many there are. There has to be at least 5 of them, right? There's the 4 diverse ones and then and Galadriel and Elrond. That's 6. Easy. They could easily take 10 each without an issue, but they're going to send one person, arguably the most important person out of the entire group, and send her off alone to fight the orcs. Either, in my opinion, either they all should have fought together or they all should have ran together. But they do things backwards. And this, okay, so the guy doesn't get harmed by the Barrow-wights. He gets harmed here. And this is where, look, check out Galadriel. She just heals this dude. Let's see if I can bring it back a little bit. He gets hit by an arrow. The orcs look good, though. I gotta say, the orcs do look good. He gets hit by the arrow. Let me pause this real quick. And we'll go back. They're trying not to make noise. I guess the orcs just kind of shot an arrow into the crowd. And happened to hit one of them. Pause it again. Let's see. When's she going to heal him? She's going to heal him in a second. Here you go. And then she puts her hands on him, and then the arrow just falls out of the dude. Like, the arrow literally just falls out of him. Like, it's getting pushed out of him by the healing powers that, like, Wolverine has. And that's not how the ring works, right? They even got the ring backwards. The rings are backwards, like the abilities of the rings. These rings that the elves have aren't supposed to be, they're not supposed to be, like, all controlling. Like, you know how, like, the one ring kind of takes control of its owner and makes the owner want to put it on and makes the owner obsessed with the ring. That these rings don't do that. Right? That's something the One Ring does. That's what makes the One Ring special. All the rings don't do that. That makes it boring when everything's the same. Again. Okay, so that happens, and then they send Galadriel in to go fight all the orcs. And then she just becomes girl boss. Look at this. Wait, hold on, check this out. She's flipping around. She's shooting fire arrows. Look at her go. She's throwing daggers. She's shooting arrows. Watch this. I don't know how that happened. She swung her arrows around near a flame, and the arrows caught on fire. Not sure if that's how it works. But then so she hits a guy with an arrow. She hits a guy with a flaming arrow. I want you to watch this. And then watch. She hits this guy with a flaming arrow. And watch him combust like he's made of gasoline. Is that how this works? Like, shouldn't, like, it's not an exploding gasoline arrow. What do they call those things that they made in, like, the riots and, like, during during civil rights? What are those things? Bottles full of, like, gasoline or kerosene, and they light the rag that's coming out of them. I forget what they're called. Molotov cocktails. Is that what that is? Like, he didn't get hit with one of those. He got hit with an arrow that was on fire. So why did he explode? Doesn't make sense. Should have just got killed with an arrow. So this all happens. And then after she kicks the crap out of most of them, she decides to, like, gloat. And that's what gets her captured. She's standing there and she's like, "You get out of here. And if you don't get out of here, you're going to be in big trouble." Like, she should have just run away. She killed a lot of them and she should have just run away. But her pure hubris gets her caught. So there you go. Adar catches her pretty easily. He just, like, whips her with a chain. Like, didn't seem too hard to get him. And look, he just puts the fire out with his hand. Like, why didn't he just explode? Shouldn't he just explode? Or does he got a fancy glove on? He got hot hands on or something. I don't know. But there's Adar. Adar just captures Galadriel. No problem. People are gonna say, "Oh, he's an elf. He's an elf too. He's an elf like her. He's not an orc." I get it, but I ain't buying it. And that's the whole episode. That's the whole episode. So let me look through my notes, see if there's anything. Oh, so the elves, right? The whole journey they're on from they were in Lindon to Eregion. They have to travel to Eregion. They walked the whole way. Would you want a secret band of elves that have to be stealthy and figure stuff out? You want them tired and weary from their journey walking from one place to another? Or can you think you can lend them a horse? I didn't understand that. This show stinks. It just stinks. There was what are some positives? The look, the CGI, the Ents were cool. The Barrow Wights were cool, even though the Barrow Wights shouldn't even be there. Barrow Wights should not exist in this timeline, but they looked cool. They looked like gypsy zombies, which was pretty cool. They had like gypsy attire on. It was pretty neat. That was pretty cool. Everything else was not good. The Gandalf scenes, Tom Bombadil, not interesting. Poppy and Sesame Seed, not interesting. The elves, not interesting. Isildur, not interesting. So not a lot of stuff here that interest me very much, I gotta say. So this might be it for me. If the fifth, I'm gonna keep watching it. I don't know if I'm gonna keep commentating on it because I'm not sure if it's something I want to keep doing. If you keep getting likes, I'll do it. Keep if I keep getting plays, I'll keep doing it. So if you like it, leave a comment. I'll put one of these up here. So subscribe, hit that bell, right? If you're listening to it on SoundCloud or if you're listening to it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you're listening to it, do me a favor. Go on to YouTube. Sloggy, everyone has one. Just go on to YouTube. Toxic Fandom Podcast. Type that in the search. You'll see the logo. Click on that. Hit subscribe. Leave me a comment. Do you want me to do it? Do you disagree with me? Do you really like this show? Am I being too hard on this show? Tell me what you like about it. If you don't want to do it on YouTube, you can email me. toxicfandompodcast@gmail.com. All one word. toxicfandompodcast@gmail.com. But I'm pretty sure that is going to do it for me tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for tuning in. And tomorrow, live, 9 p.m. Eastern time with Mikey and Seb. It's going to be a great show. We're going to do some wasting time. We're going to do some pop culture news. It's going to be just like old days. Boys are back in town, baby. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you later.